You are listening to the Estheticians Earning More podcast with Brittany Hageman, episode number 154. Welcome to the Estheticians Earning More podcast. On this podcast, we talk about how to love your esthetician business without the hustle, exhaustion, or overwhelm as it booms into a successful business. I teach simple ways how to approach your business that gives you your life back while still growing a profitable business. I grew BLH Beauty in San Diego to a six-figure business, and I learned a lot along the way, which I'm excited to share with you here. So let's get started. Do you want to make $100,000 revenue in your esthetician business? If so, I would love to show you how. I want to invite you to coach with me in my one-to-one coaching program. It's completely customizable. The way that it works is we sit down and figure out what you've been doing in your business that hasn't been working, and then make a very specific plan that I help you follow over the course of 6 months to get it done. We meet weekly for 30 minutes and discuss exactly what went well that week and what's we're going to do next week, whether it's your pricing needs to be raised, or you need to have boundaries with your clients, or if you need to learn how to sell skincare, or you need to niche down and you're doing way too many services and not making money, or all of the above. Whatever the issue is, whatever the reason is you're not making money, we'll figure it out together, and we will grow your business into a really profitable business that's sustainable, that you love, and that really helps people. I cannot wait to be your coach and to work with you. To learn more, go to the link in the show notes. And with that, on with today's episode. Hello. Happy Monday and welcome back. I am so excited to be back here with you today and to talk to you about perseverance, which is the topic of today's podcast. I last week was in Sweden, Stockholm, Sweden, to see Taylor Swift perform. Actually, it's now like a week and a half ago. It's been almost 2 weeks. So almost 2 weeks. It was such a incredible trip to Sweden, to Stockholm. I've never been to Sweden. Stockholm was such a fun and beautiful city. I highly recommend visiting in May because the weather was perfect. It was really like they called it Swift home because so many people had traveled to Stockholm to see Taylor. And so like everywhere we went, on tours and restaurants and on the bus, in the metro, it was just Taylor Swift fans everywhere. And so it just felt like this community of people. It was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable. So I had a really phenomenal time. It was one of the best trips I've been on in my life. Probably my favorite trip next to my honeymoon. I went to Bali with my husband in our honeymoon, but that was a while ago. So this was just such an incredible trip. And I feel great and excited to be back. And I was thinking about this episode before I went that I was going to talk about perseverance and how important it is to have perseverance in your business. And then I had two different things that happened around the things of perseverance on my trip that are not all business related, that will kind of demonstrate some of my ideas around it and my points that I'm trying to make. Because I do think that sometimes we talk about ideas, it's easier to understand them if you're not talking in business terms. And so that's what we're going to do. So I'm first going to talk about, so when I got to Sweden, I flew Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And, I got into Sweden at like 7 a.m. and I had to get on the train from the airport to the main central station where you could take so many trains out of. And my friend and her husband were meeting me there. My husband, we decided for him to stay home with our daughter because my daughter doesn't stay well with people. It would have been too hard for her. We both have been gone that long. So he didn't come. I was meeting my friend and her husband, and they were coming in the afternoon. And so I got in first thing in the morning, and I knew I had to take, it was like very simple. There were so many signs, like the main train, the Arlanda Express, to the central station. And then we were staying in an Airbnb in Stockholm. This Airbnb owner was like, listen, this is like the instructions of what to do. You take the metro to the station, and then you had to walk to her apartment that we were staying in. And on the way, this is like so European, and also so like, this is where the perseverance really had to come in. You had to go by a 7-Eleven where her friend was working to give me the key to get in to the apartment. So I had like gone over this with my friend. She's the one who made the reservation. I had access to the reservation and all the information. And, I'm a pretty resourceful person. I can read maps really well. Know that I knew in Stockholm that most people spoke English. And so I was like feeling pretty like, yeah, no big deal. And I also was so excited about this trip that I couldn't really think about it, talk about it, or plan it up until like few days beforehand because I wanted to go so badly that I was like convinced something would happen and I couldn't go. And so I kind of wouldn't allow myself to really spend that much time researching it, which I should have done because I get from the Orlando Express from the airport to the central station. And there were like, I'm exaggerating, but like 100 trains. There were so many. There was not 100 trains, but there was like it was huge, and there was like train over here, train over here, train over here, train over here, and she just said take the metro. And I'm looking at the signs and like nothing says metro, so I like go over to the map. I'm looking at the map, like still can't even find like on the map her like the name of the stop or anything. It was Odenplan if you're from Sweden or if you know any of the Stockholm stations. I'm like looking for Odenplan, and I'm like, okay. So then I remember I go down this like hallway. It's like I can see a lot of people going towards trains this way, so I go this way, and it's like I get to the end of this hallway, and it's like this massive hallway too, like underground. And I also, you may know, I have a phobia of rats, and I've been working on it, but I still was like afraid of seeing a rat. And we were looking to my right, like looking to my left, and there's like people, hundreds of people walking in both directions, and I'm like, do I go to the right or do I go to the left? Like, which train? And I have like my heavy backpack with my laptop, and I have my suitcase, and I hadn't really slept. And like, I'm tired, and I'm like hungry, and I'm just, all the things. So like, okay. And at this point, I remember thinking, why did I think I should go to a foreign country where I don't know anyone? I don't speak the language. I don't really have internet. I only have Wi-Fi because I'm in the train station. But once I get out of the train station, I don't have any internet or ways to like contact people. Like, what was I thinking? I'm like starting to really panic, right? Like, and I think this is where a lot of business owners get. They like me, like, I didn't really do a lot of research. I just went. I knew I really wanted to do it, right? Like, it's the same story. Like, I just opened a business. I knew this is what I wanted, so I just did it. And then I'm like in it, and I was like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I don't know what to do or where to go. I know this is where I'm supposed to go, but I don't know how to get there, right? So this is like, you can see the parallels, I hope, from like owning a business and also what I was doing. So I'm like, just going to go left. I don't know. So I go down, I see someone who like works for the train, and I ask them. Fortunately, they spoke English. I'm like, this is where to go. He's like, yeah, you go through here. Okay, great. Like I get a ticket. Go down to the station. Again, there's trains multiple directions. I'm like, and it's written in letters, so it's not like a different characters. Like I feel like if I was in China or something, the characters I could not identify. I could obviously identify letters, but I still had a hard time even like reading the map and everything, identifying like where I was supposed to go. So I get on the train. Oh my gosh, it's Odenplan. I hear that. I get off. I go up the stairs. I'm like, amazing. And then I'm like, which way? So then it takes me like, I fortunately had Google Wi-Fi, like you can download the map that you are looking at. So I was able to download it even though I was out of the Wi-Fi and like follow the little arrow. So I was like, okay, I'm on the street. I can see it's like up here on the right, like it's good. And I'm like walking. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a 7-Eleven, just like she said, on the right-hand side on the way. Great. So I go inside. There's a woman working there. I like show her what the woman had written. I was like, is this 7-Eleven? I need to find this 7-Eleven. And she's like, no, that 7-Eleven is back like 6 blocks behind us. And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking like maybe the woman is just like turned around. Maybe it's like in front of us. And so I like am walking on cobblestones. I'm like sweaty. You know me, I don't like to sweat. Can't like dragging my suitcase. I get all the way down to the street that the apartment's on. And I'm like, there's no 7-Elevens. So, and I think this is where a lot of business owners kind of get in their business where they're like, okay, I'm going to go this, I'm going to do this. They follow certain directions, whether things that they've read or learned or someone they've told them or a combination of both. And they go, and then they get to where they think it's supposed to be. And it's like this realization of like, it didn't work the way that I thought it was going to be, right? I thought maybe she just didn't understand. And there's like it was just right there. Another just around the corner. And I went around the corner, it's not there, right? And so I remember feeling like, what are my options right now? Like my options are I can go back to Central Station, which I know my friends would be coming through. I have internet there, and I can just wait for like 7 hours until they come through the station and we can find it together. Like that's an option. I can go back to one of the cafes and get Wi-Fi and like contact the Airbnb person and like ask her like what's going on or whatever. So I have all these different options. And I think this is where a lot of estheticians also kind of get to that point where they kind of like it's like this is the perseverance part. This is where you have to sit down. You're like, this is the direction I went, for whether it was the right direction or the wrong direction. Now I'm here. What are my options? And I think this is where a lot of estheticians will give up in their business and just kind of like, it didn't work. Right? Like it didn't work. I followed the instructions of the Airbnb host and it did not work my first try. And honestly, if I had done more research, it still would have been the same answer because I followed her directions specifically, right? Like I didn't have any more information until I had it. And so I think this is where the perseverance really matters and where I think a lot of people will give up at this point. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to the cafe, which like, and there's a cafe on this corner by the train station, and I'm gonna like call the Airbnb owner or whatever. Like I don't know what else to do. So I start walking back down the street and I'm like, you know what? 7-Eleven's here. I was feeling super embarrassed. Okay. So, right. Like, again, feelings that you may be coming up with you as you're growing your business, like, right. Like feeling embarrassed that you're asking the same person the same thing again. You're putting yourself out there again. You're putting yourself out in the world in a way that previously I had not, like in my day-to-day life, I'm not stopping at stores, like showing people like a text message being like, is this, like I have more knowledge of like how to get around where I live, and I have internet and I have all these things like that kind of I'm not so vulnerable. I was so vulnerable. I remember thinking like I was so glad it was light outside and like morning, not like late at night, because I was like so vulnerable. Someone could have easily taken advantage of me because I didn't have all of my normal things that I would have if I was even in the United States, where I spoke the language. I knew I could Uber. I knew I had phone call. Like I didn't have that same support system in Sweden. And so I go back into the 7-Eleven and I'm like, hi, I'm sorry to bother you again, but I'm supposed to find a key. And I thought this looks like it's the address, like it's 10 and this is the street and that's what it says here. Like that's what it's like. I'm like, I'm definitely missing something. And she's like, oh, you're supposed to come get your Hannah, which is my friend's name. Here, it's the key. And I like literally, you guys, I wanted to scream. I was like, didn't you realize that I was looking for that? Like I have a suitcase and I'm like clearly an American and I am showing you a message where it like says get the key at 7-Eleven. Like how did this communication not get clear to you? And again, back to your business, you may be thinking you're super clear in your marketing and talking to people about your business. And you're like, it's so obvious how to book with me. It's so obvious what I do. It's so obvious I needed the effing key, right? Like, obviously, like the American woman showing up with suitcases at 9 a.m. That was the time I was supposed to be there. And is like looking for a specific 7-Eleven is probably the person who has like needs the key that you have, right? It was like, but the thing is, this is the same thing with you and your clients. Like sometimes it's like, I don't understand how they don't know. And they don't know because you didn't tell them. She didn't know because I didn't say that first time. Like, I know this is going to sound really weird, but I'm looking for the 7-Eleven because I need to get this key to get this Airbnb, which I'm supposed to get from a 7-Eleven person. And I honestly, the reason I didn't is I was afraid that the 7-Eleven person would have gotten in trouble. And I didn't want to get I didn't know if it was like kind of not kosher, like essentially like kind of a weird situation. And I didn't want to do something that would get anyone in trouble or like jeopardize anyone's job. I kind of was like, I was kind of hoping to be like one of those things where like if I showed her the message that she would like like, oh yeah, that's me. Here you go. Like, like where it would kind of be like we would just kind of like figure it out together. I did not realize that I had to like be so specific to her. I remember telling my friends when they got there and my husband, I was like, I literally wanted to like scream. By this time, I'm like dripping in sweat. Even though it was like 70 degrees outside, I'm carrying all of my stuff. I'm so tired. I just want to lay down and take a shower. I want to take a shower and like lie down and sleep. It was like 3 a.m. my time. No, even earlier than that. It was like 1 a.m. my time. It was just wild, right? But this is the part, again, where a lot of estheticians are like, but I told them. I'm so clear on all of these things, how to book with me, what services I do, all the things, right? Like, no, I am, but you're not. Clearly, I was not clear with her, right? Even though I thought I was clear. So this is a part of perseverance where also I think a lot of estheticians get stuck because they're like, I did it and that should have done it, but you didn't. Obviously, there's something missing there and you have to figure it out. And if you need help figuring it out, I can help you figure it out. But there has to be some problem solving there where you're like, the thing that was supposed to work didn't. So why didn't it work? And again, as opposed to like feeling my embarrassment from going back in or letting my own like frustration prevent me, I was like, I need to get this key. I need to like, I'm not the if nothing else works, going back to Central Station and waiting for my friends, that was the last option. I had a lot of things I was going to figure out before I got there, right? I get the key, I go to the apartment, I'm like, yeah, okay, it took me a while to figure out how to get inside, the fob and everything. I'm like going in, the instructions to find the apartment. She didn't say the apartment number. It was this whole thing. Anyways, I get inside. Fine. Okay. Whew, that was done. But I felt so proud of myself afterwards because I had solved this problem and had perseverance despite all of these obstacles, not speaking the language, all the things that kind of stood in the way of me getting what I really wanted, which was in this apartment and able to take a shower and sleep and things like that. And I think that same thing for you is like, what are those obstacles in the way between you and getting the goal that you have, which I'm assuming is to make more money, have more clients, grow a profitable business? Like, what is in the way and how are you going to solve that? And if the way that you've chosen to solve that doesn't work, what are your next 4 options? Don't let that one way just completely prevent you from taking action. I want to give you another story of perseverance or lack of perseverance from the same trip. So to demonstrate what could also be happening, why you do know what that you need to do. You do know the obstacles in the way, but you still can't do it. This is probably what's happening for you, which was also what happened to me on the trip. So we went to the concert. It was Friday night. It was incredible. It was incredible how much public transport was, that you could take buses and trains to get back home at night. It was still chaotic because there were lots of people and trying to get on all these trains and stuff and finding that, walking to the train from the concert, but from like versus sitting in your car for 2 hours like I normally do after a concert and everyone honking and being angry and like is a much positive experience. But I hadn't drank any water. I only drank 1 bottle of water at the venue because last time I went, such a long concert, I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the concert and I missed a couple songs. And so I like did not want to miss any of this concert. And so by the time the concert was over, I was so thirsty, like the thirstiest I had been in a very long time. And, everyone's tired and it's feeling stressful, like trying to get to the train, whatever. So we finally get back to our train station where we got off. And it's like a 10-minute walk to the apartment. It's that same walk I did with my suitcase a few days earlier. And it's like 1 a.m. and I'm with my friends and they have the scooters. I don't know if you've seen that, if you've been in a city where they have those scooters, or if you have the app, you can like scan the app on the scooter itself and then take the scooter and like scoot around the city. And both of my friends loved the scooters. They like, one of them already he'd scootered multiple times. My friend really wanted to go scootering. I, like, previous to this moment, had no interest in using the scooters for a number of reasons. One, I wanted to have a helmet. I just kept having visions of like falling, and then my head like cracked open on Stockholm street, and like not coming home to my child. Like, and I just am not like, I'm not a person who physically likes to be in situations where I could get hurt, like at all. Like, I also don't want to ride a bike without a helmet. Like, this has been since I've been a child, right? So I'm really thirsty. My friends really want to scoot, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it. Okay. So this is where the perseverance is different, because I had decided, okay, I'm going to try this thing, and I get on it and instantly I fall. So I don't know how to balance it. I've never done it before. I've never used a scooter before. So I don't even know. I expected the base to be thicker so that like you didn't really have to hold yourself up, that you just could just hold on and go, And I was like, okay, it's like, there's no one out here. It's middle of the night, essentially. I can just stand on it and I can scoot, 10 minutes back to our apartment. And instantly I'm like, oh, I don't have the balance for this. And I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, I had zero perseverance. And as my friend's husband was like, you gave up really quick, Brainy. You know what? I did. And the reason I did is because of two things. One, I knew that the time it would take me to learn how to scoot would be longer than the walk it would be to walk home. And I had no interest in like this. I didn't really care about learning how to use a scooter. It was just a vehicle to get to where I wanted to get faster. And it wasn't going to do that for me. And I was so thirsty. And I had no interest prior to that ever using the scooter. So it was like, no, I'm not investing 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And I also know myself, like, I knew I was really afraid of falling. It wasn't a skill that I would have easily picked up because my fear of falling was so big. And so again, it wasn't like I could pick this up really quickly, just show me how, and like, let's go. The motivation wasn't there because I was very afraid of falling. And so to overcome my fear of falling, it was not going to be a 10-minute lesson. It was not going to be a 20-minute lesson. It would be like something I would have to work at multiple times over and over again over the course of weeks, if not months, of learning how to do it, having someone on both sides of me, feeling like I would be safe, like all the things it would take, that kind of mentorship and assistance to get over that feeling like I'm going to fall and crack my head open, which is really the fear that I had, right? If you had told me, like, if I had known there's no way I could get hurt, I probably would have tried more and longer, or been like, okay, let's not do it right now. I'm too thirsty, but like, I'll try it again tomorrow, But the fear of being hurt completely paralyzed me. And I was okay with that because, again, like, I could care less about using a scooter. It's like not that interesting or important to me. But I think that is where a lot of estheticians are in their business. You could learn how to use a scooter. It would make you get there faster, right? Versus walking. If you go on the scooter, it's going to take 2 minutes to get back to the apartment or less. There's no one on the streets. It's just like right around the corner. But if you're walking, it's going to take longer. It's actually a lot more effort. But you are so afraid of falling off the scooter that you would rather walk, take more time, and that's like safer, so much safer, and so much less scary, even though it's not the better of two options, and maybe not the best option for getting there quicker, which is really what you want. But that fear that you have, it completely will paralyze you. The fear of marketing, the fear of putting yourself out there, the fear of rejection, the fear of raising prices, the fear of saying no to clients and having boundaries, whatever the fears are that you have that's so deep inside of you, when you go to do these things, you cannot do it. You cannot do, you see the benefit of it. You know that it would work, probably, right? Like, if I could learn to use a scooter, I would have gotten around Sweden a lot faster, probably been a lot of fun. Like, I can see that people have fun on the scooters. Obviously, people like them. That's why they have them. They work. You can get from place to place, But the fear of a car not seeing me on that scooter and no, I'm good. No, I don't. That doesn't sound like fun. I'd rather walk for 2 hours. Like, hard no for me. Nope, not interested. And I know that there are people out there that are like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not that scared. I'm just going to go. Right. And I don't understand that mindset. Like, I've always been risk averse, especially in like anything I could physically get hurt even like as a small child. Like, I could physically get hurt from this. I do not want to do it. When people are like, oh my gosh, it's like so much fun. I'm like, you've lost your mind. It's not fun. It's terrifying. Right. And again, I could overcome it, but it's going to be a lot harder for me versus someone else who doesn't have that fear. So if you see other estheticians who are just doing things and excelling in ways that you have not, they don't have that fear, or they've overcome that fear that you have. That is the difference between them and you. It really is. They either overcame it or they never had it to begin with. I remember my husband's aunt, who's also married into his family, was talking about like jumping off this cliff with him as a child in Hawaii, and how she got to the top of it and she was so terrified and she couldn't come down because of the way that, we climb up. And she had to jump off of it. And it took her like a long time, like maybe an hour. And another woman who she didn't know came up and like held her hand, and they jumped together. And my brother-in-law was there hearing the story, and he's like an adrenaline junkie. He does like skydiving, and he's not afraid of anything. I'm sure, like, of course, he would have been scootering all over the place in Sweden. And he was like, oh my gosh, but how did you feel after when you jumped off the cliff? Like, kind of like, wasn't it worth it, the fun of it? And at the same time, her and I both were like relieved. And that's how I would have felt. I would have been like, no, what did I do? How did I get up here? And jumping off the cliff is not a fun experience for me. I'm so relieved I'm in the water and safe and I didn't die. Like, no, it was not fun to jump. It was terrifying. And so if your body feels that, like, it's terrifying to do all of these things you need to do to grow your business, you will not do it. Of course not. You will just walk. You just won't go. It's not happening. So if that's the case for you, then you really do need coaching, someone to help you overcome those fears, work through those fears, to approach them in a way that is sustainable, that you can actually learn. If I stayed in Stockholm, if we started living there and I got myself a helmet, I don't care if I'm the only person in the city with a helmet, and my husband was like, I'm not teaching you to use a scooter. Apparently I'm very stubborn. I don't know. I guess this is true. And someone who had the patience to coach me and to stand next to me and to teach me and like willing to like work with that. And then I, again, am being super vulnerable, being afraid and having my fear being well known to those around me and people who are watching. That's also a big part of it, is this vulnerability of like, I don't know how to do this and I'm afraid to do this. That's super hard, right? To say. It's embarrassing. I'm almost 40 years old and I'm like afraid that I'm going to fall off a scooter. And maybe you're either like laughing because you're like, oh my gosh, this is so silly. Or you're like, yes, I understand me. I don't know where you are in that. But that's maybe what's happening. The first story I told, you're like, I can't relate to any of that story because I can't even get on the plane. I'd be so terrified to go by myself. So we have to start there, right? Like, all the other steps of perseverance, completely not worth your time focusing on, because you can't even get on the plane to go to a country that you don't know anyone and don't speak the language, and have to get on a bunch of trains to get to an apartment that you don't really know where it is or how to get in. So I hope these analogies made sense. I hope it helps you understand where you are in these stories, whether you are the first story where you don't have the fear, you are ready to go, you want to make this work, but you just haven't, you maybe give up too quickly, you're not persevering through these obstacles, you're just like, I don't know what to do, and you just kind of like stop. Or you have like a deep fear, vulnerability, embarrassment, whatever, holding you back, and you can't even figure out what the obstacles would be to overcome because you can't even get started. If you need help with this, schedule a call with me and we can see if we're a good fit. That is it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back next week. Same time, same place. Have a fantastic week. Bye for now. Hey, if you like this podcast, please rate and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. I cannot tell you how much that helps my podcast grow. So you can click 5 stars if you like it and you want to give me 5 stars. And please leave a review about telling me why you like it so that I can help other estheticians grow their business. Thank you so much.